Today on Com Talk, we're talking about Bunbear, the bunny that believes in you.
Rogue signal intercepted. Signal designation: Bees, Views and Reviews. Signal host: Branson Boykin. Initiating Com Talk.
Hey guys, welcome to Bees, Views and Reviews, the podcast that promotes faith-based, family-friendly comics and the creators that make them. Brought to you by Geek Devotions, a show by devoted geeks devoted to letting you know that you are loved. I'm B, and today I am super excited to be talking with author AC Peckham and artist Stephanie Russell about their new book, Bunbear Believes in You. Hello, guys, and welcome to the show.
Hello, it's good to be here.
Hello, how's it going?
Awesome. All right. So we've got your new book out, Bunbear Believes in You. And I was saying before the show, I've read it to my boys as a bedtime story, and my youngest has actually requested it twice, so he thoroughly enjoys the book. That's becoming one of his favorites. Before we dig too deep into the book itself, I'd like to talk a little bit about y'all and your background, kind of your testimony and what got you into writing and making art and that kind of thing. So whoever wants to jump in, give us a little background about who y'all are.
You want to go ahead first, Aaron?
Alrighty. Well, I've always had a love for telling stories. I've been writing down stories ever since I was a little kid. Not all of them worth reading. Some notebooks I've burned, but it's something I've always just kept at. And I actually went to college for creative writing. And I got to spend plenty of time really working on that craft and getting better at how to tell a story, but also learning why to tell a story. My senior research project was over children's literature and the impact that children's books had on developing children's minds. And so that's what kind of set me on the path of writing specifically children's books. I have stories for every age that I'm working on right now that I want to tell over the course of my career, but I just had this special passion for wanting to provide something positive for young readers to get them started on a good love of reading and just also teach them good life lessons. And that's actually where I really began my writing career. My first book, John the Cyber Llama, was born out of a creative writing workshop class for my undergrad. I wrote it in that class, and then it was a friend of mine who had just started his publishing company, Irony Bros, who wound up getting that published. Then here I am 2 books later with Bunbear, and it's just been awesome getting to share these stories that just come to me as these weird ideas of just like, hey, what if there was a robotic llama? Or hey, what if this bunny bear thing just went around encouraging his friends? And somehow I was able to spin stories out of that, and I've been able to find incredible artists like my friend M.E. Elroy and Steph here, who helped to bring these characters to life in ways that I could not have on my own. And it's been super awesome getting to work with Steph. We're already just bouncing off other ideas off each other, even in the midst of marketing this one. So I'm excited to see what other kinds of fun stories we might bring y'all to.
Awesome. All right, Stephanie, how about you?
Well, with me, as far as, getting into art and stuff, it was more just something that I began with as a kid. Every little kid draws and, makes scribbles and doodles all over things. But
Right.
As I got older, I noticed that it became more of like an emotional outlet kind of. So I started developing it. I started enjoying making like self-autobiographical little comics, just cute little anime related things, and just having fun with it. And I actually went to, speaking about college, I went to college and got my bachelor's in painting. So I actually was able to get not only the digital, thank you, not only the digital art background, but also, just for fun, but also actual painting. And that's actually helped me a lot in different aspects of, doing illustration and stuff. Testimony wise, that actually kind of ties into working with Aaron. I'm a believer also. I was saved when I was a little kid, probably about 7 years old. And, I've gotten to know a lot of different Christian geek friends and Christian geek, other people that enjoy the same things I do. And, I really wanted to make sure that if God was leading me into art related jobs, that they were with other believers or working on projects, that were faith-based, family friendly based, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. Well, give me the story about how the two of you started working together. Like this is honestly on the show. This is the first time that I've had an artist. Use words, Branson.
This is RC stuff.
Author artist combo. Normally, I either have just the writer, or a couple of times I've had someone who is the author and the artist. So this is the first time I've had kind of both sides of the book together in one show. What brought y'all together and made y'all decide to do a book together?
So I had already kind of had the idea for this Bunbear character for a little while. But I didn't really think of doing a book with him quite yet until it was after I had been following Steph's artsy Steph art page, and I knew Steph kind of as an acquaintance from.
I was gonna say it was a friend of a friend. Yeah, we met through mutual friends online.
Yeah, and we're in like a few different groups together. Like we're in the Geek Devotions community. We're both friends of Andrew's Wide World of Gaming.
Mm-hmm.
So we already kind of had some loose connections. And so I was following her art page, and it just kind of had a moment of, wait a minute. And I thought about that character, and I was just looking at her art style, and I was just so curious. I felt like her art style seemed like it would be perfect for this kind of character. And so I actually just messaged her. I was just like, hey, hypothetically, do you think you could draw this character for me? And with a pretty base description, she basically pulled the exact image out of my head and put it to the screen, and I knew from there, yes, this is exactly what I was looking for. This would be perfect. I've got to do something with this character.
His first draft was like extra fluffy at first too, so we kind of slimmed him a little bit. He was super fluffy at first.
Fluff bear.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because like it was actually that connection that inspired me to write this story in the first place, because I already kind of had this character in mind, this theme of encouragement. But it wasn't really until I saw Steph's drawing of the character that I really had that moment of, I actually need to write a story with this. And so it was over the course of a week that I hammered out the first draft of that and sent it to her to look over. And that's kind of how our starting point was for this project.
See, this is my first time hearing that part, because I thought that you already had the drafts and everything already. I didn't realize that my art helped you so much. I'm so happy.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, exactly. Geek Devotions exclusive.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's really neat. Like I said, I've read the book a couple of times to my son. One of the characters I especially connected with was actually the very first one, the little girl who's trying to draw.
Oh, yeah. Kimberly.
Because as I said, I try to dabble a little bit in writing and in art a little bit when I can. But the interaction that Bunbear has with the little girl actually reminded me a lot of one of the Comic Cons I went to, Dallas, who, pretty much everyone on this channel knows Dallas and all that he does and the ministries that he does. But
God
he
bless
introduced.
Dallas.
I know he's great.
Amen.
He's a great guy.
But he introduced me to a comic book artist named Roland Paris, who he's done work for Marvel and a lot of other stuff. Louisiana native, great guy, and he usually comes up to the Comic-Con here in Shreveport a lot. But I had never shown my artwork to any of the big comic book artists because I thought I would bring it to them and they would be like, "This is crap. Do you even know how to draw? Come on, man." Because you hear these horror stories, right?
There's always that.
And,
There's always that in the back of your head whenever you make something.
Right. And but he was actually encouraging. Now he didn't say, "Oh yeah, you're perfect. You're ready to go make a comic book." I mean, he had a lot of critiques and a lot of things that I could do better. But he approached it as, you're on your way, you're growing. This is the next direction you need to go in to grow. And seeing the way Bunbear interacted with Kimberly about that picture is pretty bad. You're not good at drawing yet, but keep trying. And it reminded me of that interaction with him about how he's like, you're not ready to draw a book yet, but here are some things that you could do, and gave me some real action steps. So for me personally, I connected with Kimberly a lot. But what are some of the, I guess, what led to some of the ideas of the other characters, like the kid that was building the rocket and the singer solo artist? Like, what was the inspiration for those?
Well, the different characters, I kind of put a little of myself into each of them, as well as I just wanted to give some representation to other people, other friends of mine. For example, I have plenty of friends that draw, that really kind of beat down on themselves. They don't think they're near as good as they actually are. And so it's just kind of, for a lot of artists, there's that problem of just having confidence in, if you mess up one detail, then can you really call yourself an artist? And it's just like, I have this one friend who does like comic book style superhero drawings. His name is Mark. He's awesome. And he's always just like, "Oh yeah, here's a quick sketch. It's not my best work." And it's just like, I'd buy a book of that. But
I've seen so many artists do that. Like they say, "Oh, I made this doodle, in 10 minutes. It's like a masterpiece." I'm like, I cannot make the doodle in 2 hours. Yeah, like that amazes me.
And so it's just like for that one, I just kind of I kind of put a little of myself, but so many of my friends in there that I just see kind of beating down on themselves unnecessarily for this skill that may not be perfect yet, but they're constantly developing it and getting better and better at it, and already way more amazing than they realize. With Isaiah, who was building the rocket, that was also a little bit of myself in him. The inspiration for him was really just kind of when you have that passion for something that you have absolute confidence in there. And like Isaiah is absolutely the most confident of Bunbear's friends, but he just keeps making mistakes and he's wondering why nothing's working. And so like with his lesson, basically he's having to learn to try new things, adapt to his mistakes, and really learn to overcome obstacles by thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And so
there's marks for enthusiasm, but you have to know what you're doing to, kind of tweak things and be willing to kind of recalibrate if needed.
You have to be willing to grow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it was actually Lauren that I really put the most of myself into, because she's this shy choir girl, really nervous about her solo. This was when I wrote this, I was actually getting ready for a solo of my own.
Oh,
I identified with her a lot too. A lot.
And so I basically just kind of wrote my own experience I was having at that time, that, you know, I know that I am good at this. I know that everyone else thinks I am good at it too, hence why I was chosen for this solo, hence why Lauren was chosen for that solo. But there's still just that fear of, what if I mess up? And I did mess up in that solo that I was getting ready for at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very noticeable to me, but people still enjoyed it.
right.
And you have no idea probably if other people noticed it. They might not have noticed it at all.
Exactly.
Right.
I found out afterwards how few people noticed it because they were just enjoying the music.
Yep.
And so I really identify the most with Lauren because she had the talent, she had made the progress, she just had that stage fright, that fear that Bunbear encouraged her to help her overcome. And I've had a lot of friends that have really encouraged me to really kind of step out of my comfort zone and do things that I didn't think I could do.
Right. Yeah.
Some of the writer groups I'm a part of, a lot of them talk about something called Imposter Syndrome.
Yes.
Yes, I've heard about that a lot, yes.
Very successful as a writer. They've published works and they're successful. People are buying their stuff. Or as an artist, they've sold pieces. People are commissioning them to do their artwork. They are living the dream. They are doing what they wanted to do, but there's still this catch of, well, you're not really one. You just have to be at the right place at the right time. Yeah, exactly.
They don't think they have like the actual talent to back it up.
Right. And a lot of times those groups become support groups for situations just like that of, get out of your own head for a second. Mm-hmm. Look at what you were doing. You have a published book. You are selling your artwork. People are paying you to do what you love. Mm-hmm. And so I see a lot of that in that character well, obviously I've got the skill because people are recognizing it, but I'm not really, really good, am I?
Yeah. I tried to kind of show that in her, like she's very close. Like you can see, like she's just like sucked in on herself, kind of, just mess. Because I was that little kid too. Like I've done solos in choir and stuff, and kind of that same, like, I'm not really that good. I mean, I'm singing, but you just scared. But like her messing with her hair and all the nervousness,
right.
Show that.
Yeah, and it's convenient that you bring up imposter syndrome because that is something that I have dealt with. Mm-hmm. And like even though I'm not like a super mega successful author or anything, I have kind of struggled with just like that. Am I really that as good as people keep telling me I am? Because it's just like, it's one thing to get to share something I've created, but like I very much feel a lot of the time, maybe I was just in the right place at the right time and I just got lucky. Because it was a friend of mine who published my book, and I'm just like subtly thinking to myself, what if he was just being nice, or what if people are just saying that just to not hurt my feelings? But
right.
The greatest moments have been when I've actually gotten to see someone's kid reading my book and genuinely enjoying it and getting to see that joy on their face for something I've created, that all that self-doubt and worry fades away, and I just get sucked into that moment and realize I legitimately just had a positive impact on someone's childhood.
Yeah.
You were saying that earlier. I hadn't thought about it before. Like you were saying, oh, now that you've helped make this book, you're going to possibly be a story in someone's childhood. And that just like dumbfounded me. I was like, oh my gosh. Because I remember some of the little, books I grew up with, things like, the Corduroy and what's another one, like
gosh, you're tugging on my heartstrings. My little boy stuffs Corduroy in his room right now.
And just what's another one? Like the Bernstein Bear. Just little things that maybe people don't think of as absolute literary classics, but
Harry the Dirty
you loved
Dog.
them. Harry the Dirty Dog. Oh my gosh. I had weird ones though, like because I'm from Arizona, and so they had like the 3 javelinas. Stella Luna's one about like bats. So there were weird Arizona specific ones.
I read Stella Luna. I love that.
Oh, wasn't that so cute? Oh my gosh. See, I still remember them, and I'm 31, so they're really
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. All right, guys, we are going to take a short commercial break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about Bunbear.
In a world where live-action movies reign supreme, 2 awesome dudes are keeping things animated. If you want to hear a couple of animation nerds gush about the movies they love, then hop, run, or fly on over to The Cellcast. Available on most podcast platforms.
Welcome back to Bees, Views, and Reviews, where we are talking with AC Peckham and Stephanie Russell, the author and artist behind the new book, Bunbear Believes in You. Now, I wanted to take a little bit of time, Stephanie, to talk to you about your art style. I as I'm looking at it, I get little bitty hints of maybe a little bit of anime in there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So is this indicative of what you normally do of your style, or have you dabbled in anything else?
Yes. Well, when I first started, it was more anime. When I was in my teenish years, I've kind of liked getting a little mixture of cartoon, kind of classic cartoon, classic, thick line, very, very simplistic kind of. But I really liked anime's use of extreme expressions. So so you see that a lot in Bunbear. There's you'll see an anime moment where something drops and they just stare at it and they go, oh, just those kind of beats. I enjoy those.
Cool. Now you said you had a degree in painting as well.
I do. Yes.
Yeah. So is that you do still life? Do you do? I don't know enough about painting to ask an intelligent question about painting.
That's okay. Well, I went for what's it called? What's it called? I went for oil painting, classical portrait painting is my major. But the good thing is it was really kind of filled out with watercolor, acrylics, some use in different use of graphite and stuff. Mostly I like watercolor because it gives you that kind of storybook, whimsical kind of feel. So yeah, I've sold a few pieces here and there, but I think most of the time now I usually do digital art because there are a lot of great programs that can make the digital art look really painterly, look like brushstrokes, look like actual watercolor. So
right. For Christmas 2 years ago, my wife bought me a book that says how to draw art for video games.
Ooh.
And she bought it just because video games are kind of the theme for Christmas that year. A lot of the gifts for our boys had to do with video games. So just on a whim, she bought it. And as I was looking into it, it uses video games as the framework, but it actually teaches you drawing from the classics.
Oh, wow.
Da Vinci and that kind of thing. All these classic artists. It uses them to teach you about form and shading and using shapes and that kind of thing. Do you find that your knowledge and she bought that just on a whim, but I found that my artwork tends to go more comic booky.
Yeah, same
here. But I found that learning those things, learning how to draw for a video game, which is based on the classics, actually greatly improved my comic book art.
The funny
Do you
thing
find
is,
that your knowledge from what you learned in painting kind of spills over into some of your other artwork?
It does. I was just going to say that because this is kind of unrelated, but it is related. If you look at some of the concept art for certain video games, things like Castlevania, that sort of thing, a lot of their artwork is like professional, big, giant watercolors. And it's like, oh my gosh. So I do feel like a lot of traditional media does spill into a good video game, even if it isn't necessarily able to look exactly like that currently. It can eventually, but it does tend to help a lot. Like I had a figure drawing class, and after taking it, I just on a whim decided to draw, a little thing of Zelda, and that little sketch was the best Zelda drawing I'd ever done. Like, I'm not a huge Legend of Zelda fan, but I enjoy some of it, and I was like, oh, this actually looks really good. So
it's okay, we'll forgive you for that.
I'm not big fantasy. I'm more sci-fi. That tends to be more my realm. But the classical or more root art things really helped with the fun art, if you call it that.
Cool. All right. Well, this is going to kind of be directed towards both of you. How does your faith work into your work? You kind of touched on where it came from for Bunbear, but just in your work in general, like, and this is a question I ask a lot of my artists. Some of them, they set out to achieve a certain mission with their work, and some of them, it's just a kind of a general overlay of the work that they do. So how does your faith work into, for AC, your books, and then for Stephanie, your artwork? How does that play out in what you produce?
You want to answer first, Aaron?
For me, when I create something, I want it to reflect my faith in a way that this is not just some silly thing that you just look at, laugh at, and throw away. I want this to be something that has a deep impact, and I want it to be able to plant these seeds of what's really important. Though none of my stories so far have had explicitly Christian themes in them, they have contained very clear themes of kindness, encouragement, teamwork, sharing, things that are important to the Christian belief, that though not all of my audience are Christians, I want to be able to share with them these values that I can help instill in their children, because I want this to have a positive impact on their lives. And I feel like God gave me this gift so that I could use it to help people rather than just to write something just to consume.
Right. Art with a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And especially with children's literature, I'm handling a very delicate-minded audience whose minds and values are still being shaped, and so I want to be gentle and I want to be gentle with that and instill in them these simple yet greatly important lessons that they can carry with them as they grow older.
As far as
Steph, you got anything you want to say in there?
Yeah, sorry. I apologize. I tend to be an interrupter. I don't mean to. It's ADHD thing.
No, you're good. You're good.
As far as my own work, kind of like Aaron, it doesn't tend to always be like overtly Christian. Like it is obviously because I'm Christian, but it's not like specifically, Christian iconography, that sort of thing. In the actual art. But with me, a lot of times my art tended to be autobiographical. And, I would tell people straight out like, oh, I had a good time with God today, and make comic about that. Like for me, it was showing that being Christian believing in Christ, having that faith walk is just who I am. It's just a normal thing. It's not, something to be, oogled at or, someone to be offended by. It's just who I am. So it's just, part of my life. And that's what I would try to make very clear and not necessarily push it in people's face. A lot of times I'll do art about geeky things. Like yesterday I did some fan art of like Nintendo characters for one of those little draw the six fan arts thing.
I saw that in Devoted Geek Life. I was like,
exactly.
oh yeah, it's Mario Day.
Exactly. It's just stuff like that. So, but I make it, just
cool.
the fact that I am a Christian artist.
I'm kind of playing a leapfrog with the questions here, but I want to jump ahead to this one. Obviously the book is designed to be a children's book, but like I said, I've read it to my boys twice now as a bedtime story, and I got to admit, now no one ever accused me of not being sensitive, so I'll go out and say that, but I will say that by the time I get to the end of the book, I really want to, I really wish that Bunbear were like an actual person, because I'm like, I want a hug from a giant half bunny, half bear, So even though it's a book written for children, the encouragement that is in the story, I think, is something that even adults can connect with. So in the process of creating Bunbear and writing the book, I know I said you said you kind of had it geared towards children, but is this something that you think other audiences would benefit from?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
I
have a couple of friends specifically.
I mostly geared this towards children. Yeah. It's mostly geared towards children, but I've honestly seen it quite enjoyed by even adults. My mom was having a bad day, and I read her one of my stories, and it helped.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's awesome because, for me, the point of a story is not necessarily to make it appropriate for a specific audience, because I'd see a lot of artists do that nowadays, where they're targeting content-wise a specific audience. Like a lot of movies you'll see nowadays are rated R, specifically geared towards audiences based solely on the fact that it's rated R. Like they go out of their way to add this violent, explicit, gory content
beauty for the sake of
in
gratuity.
no way benefits the story or adds or even subtracts anything. It's just there for no reason at all.
Right.
And I feel like we often see a lot of children's literature that is, in the same way, kind of dumbed down, super overly simplistic, I guess.
Yeah.
Taking a story that can and should be for everyone, and it's just told in such a way where sometimes it just kind of comes across as baby talk.
Right.
And so with my stories, I wanted to tell them in a simple way, but in a way that is understandable, relatable, and enjoyable for all ages. Because while yes, this Bunbear is a children's book, that does not mean the story and the message is only for kids.
You're absolutely singing my song right here. The whole reason, and I've shared this story before, and the people who listen to the show are going to get tired of hearing it, but the whole reason Bees, Views, and Reviews exists is because I was having a conversation with Dallas about how, I hate that as a dad, I've got two sons who are into comics like I am. They like Spider-Man and Batman and those kinds of things. And I love taking them to the comic book store we have here in Shreveport. But every time we go, there are just certain titles in certain sections where we're like, that shadowy place. I feel like Mufasa sitting on Pride Rock. That shadowy place. We don't go over there.
Right.
There are just certain titles. I'm like, I get that it's a comic book, but you can't read it. Or I get that Batman is on the front cover, but that's not a Batman story you can read.
Yeah.
You know,
that happens a bunch.
And the frustration I have that this idea, like you said, that, well, if we want adults to be attracted to it, then we have to put in this gratuitous stuff. We've got to put in the language, the sex, the violence to make it obvious that it's for adults. When, I mean, I think back to Batman, the animated series.
Oh, yeah. That was the best.
That was
the best.
That was a cartoon. It was a cartoon for kids, but it dealt with some deep, deep themes. It dealt with grief. It dealt with loss. It dealt with being weary of doing good. It dealt with chances at redemption. I remember distinctly. There's one episode where the whole episode is Batman basically following this mob boss around because the mob boss is trying to find his son. And the whole story is the redemption of the mob boss. By the end of it, the mob boss is turning himself in and trying to lead a better life. Yeah. You know, and that's stuff that even adults can connect with, but it's a show for kids. And I told Dallas, I was like, you know, I know there are people out there who are making things like this, but they're not mainstream. They're not what's on the shelves. And I want to draw attention to them and give them a place to share their stuff. And,
that is the coolest.
You know, and I've been able to do that with this show. I've been able to find people who have things that I find enjoyable. I find entertaining. I mean, I'm 30 years old, and I thoroughly enjoy it. But when my boys come up and say, "Well, Dad, can I read that too?" I don't have to hide it away. I don't have to cover it up. I can say, "Sure, sit down right here, and we can read the book together." So y'all just talking about that, it's tugging on some heartstrings. But all right, now AC, you had mentioned before that you had some other works besides Bunbear. What are those? Tell us a little bit about those.
So I currently have 2 other books. My very first book that I published is John the Cyber Llama. That was illustrated by my friend M.E. Elroy, who... That's a fun story about a half robot, half llama who lives in a world where robots and llamas don't get along, but he goes out of his way to show kindness to everyone he meets, show everyone that you don't have to hate other people because they're different. And then my second book, The Tallest Giraffe, also illustrated by Mr. Elroy, is about using your different strengths to help others reach things that they can't reach on their own, that you can't reach on your own, and just kind of using your different strengths for the good of each other. And I announced it earlier this year. I am actually, Mr. Elroy and I are actually working on the sequel to John the Cyber Llama, so you can stay tuned for that as well.
Oh, great. Great. All right, Stephanie, what have you done anything besides Bunbear that people can invest in? Did we lose you? You still there?
Sorry, was that a question for me?
Yes, yeah.
I apologize. The sound kind of went out from me for a second. Can you repeat the question?
Oh, okay. Do you have anything outside of Bunbear that you've done that people can find and invest in?
I currently do not have any other illustration projects that I've done. Working with Aaron, Bunbear was actually my very first ever, so this has been the coolest thing in the world.
Wow, awesome.
I know. It's so cool. I was not expecting that. Thank you. So, I'm definitely open to more illustration projects for sure. Other than that,
I highly recommend her. She is literally fantastic.
Oh, thank you. The only other stuff I've done really has I've helped a couple of friends with their Twitch channels. Aaron had been mentioning our friend Andrew's Wild World of Gaming. I got to do his channel art and the emojis and that sort of thing. I've done little art projects here and there, but it's mostly just freelance and online stuff for the moment, and obviously Bunbear.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that's exciting. That this is your inaugural project. Well, not project.
I know. It's so cool.
I'm normally better at words than this.
Work.
I know.
There you go.
Right?
Thank you, AC.
I get
Leave
so
it to the
happy
author to
about
know
it.
exactly what to say.
Illustrator.
Yeah, makes me giddy. I can put that on my resume.
Yeah, you can.
Awesome. Well, for people who might be hunting illustrators or authors, where can people find you on social media?
I will let Aaron go first on that.
So I have an author page on Facebook. I'm not currently on any other social media platforms, but that's my main place you can find me. You can also find stuff about my books on my publisher's page, Iron A Bros Publishing, and you can also find them on Instagram.
Nice.
Cool. All right, Stephanie, where can we find you?
I, on the other hand, am on way too many social media platforms. It's very strange. For some reason, someone else hasn't taken this name before. But if you Google Artsy Steph, that's ArtsieSteph, you will find me. I have, Twitter. I have a Instagram account for my art. It's Artsy Steph Art, I believe. Same thing with Facebook. And, you can see a lot of my artwork there. I'm always posting, a comic or a sketch or a doodle. I was going to say, you've seen my stuff on Geek Devotion, so I post there every once in a while too. So
awesome. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, if you are looking to get your copy of Bunbear Believes in You, remember Bunbear Believes in You is written by AC Peckham and illustrated by Stephanie Russell. You can get your copy at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. They're available in both of those places. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Be sure to follow Geek Devotions on all our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the whole thing. Also, be sure to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast catchers and leave reviews. We like to hear feedback. We'll see you next time. Until then, stay devoted, peace, and love.